I was going to ask a couple of questions. You host in the mornings. You host a talk show. Is it a sports talk show, or is it just a everything talk show?
It is not. So part of my past, I've been in radio since 2003 part-time, and then 2004 full-time. And at times was a play-by-play announcer. I did 5 seasons for the minor league baseball team here, the Delmarva Shorebirds, from '05 to '09. So 4 years, but 5 seasons in there. But worked in radio full-time throughout that. We launched a sports station in 2010, and the guy I do the show with, who's a very good friend, Whiskey, and I, the station flipped from rock to a sports, an FM sports talker. And our area doesn't have any pro sports. We're not a big town, but we're close, not far from Philly or DC and Baltimore. And so, we were like, all right, we're going to give this a shot. And then 10 months later, 10 months later, we had to put some kind of legalistic thing where we had to put something in a trust, and 2 stations went away. So we were kind of on the AM dial for a while, and the station wasn't really generating enough to justify. But fortunately for us, the guy on the country station was taking another job elsewhere, and it just, the timing was perfect. So we've done the Whiskey and Radio show almost 11 years as is. And so it's a country morning show. So it's not talk. We do 5 or 6 breaks an hour, but it's music driven, but we pop in for a couple minutes here and there and have a good time.
Now, Whiskey, I saw a picture of you two, and there's some options here. You're either quite tall and he's not so tall, or you're not so tall and he's very short, or you were on a box or something. What's are you a pretty tall guy?
I'm only 6'1", but I mean, okay. Photoshop's beautiful. No, I'm just kidding. He is not particularly tall, and I am not short. So I mean, we don't quite have like the twins vibe from from the good old days there, yeah. Todd. I don't know Hudson gets that reference, but I'm kind of in the middle of you guys.
Yeah.
But Arnold Schwarzenegger, Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Not quite there.
Yeah.
But we are very opposite, but we're very close friends, and it's so much fun being able to work with someone that you're basically best friends with. And opposites attract, and we complement each other well in there, and that's been a fun stage in life.
I did that with my brother-in-law. He was my best friend, then he became my brother-in-law. We worked for 7 years in the morning on a radio station, and he's opposite of me too. And so it's such a great diversity. You play off of one another. You know how each other's mind work. You have a lot of history. You've got some inside jokes that you can share with people so they can be part of it. I mean, I get that. I think that's probably what you're referencing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. There's often times where we're like, he's like, that was for you. And I'm like, I know no one else got it, but at least we had fun.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's listening to your personal jokes and conversations and stuff.
Nobody else gets it. Yeah.
I was going to ask you another question about radio.
Sure.
And here's a little bit of an illustration I was thinking about. When I was in my early 20s, I was playing unlimited slow pitch softball, where you throw it as high as you want and it drops down on a mat. I was also playing home talent where Hudson plays. I was playing home talent baseball, fast pitch hardball. And it was tough because you're swinging a bat and you're using a glove. And so there's a lot of similarities, but it's a very different sport, very different. And I was wondering about here, I quit doing radio after 30 years, and it took me quite a bit of time to get radio out of me doing voiceover. Not that there aren't any times where you use an announcer type voice, but I was wondering how you do it. You're still in radio every day, and then you've got to go out, and most of the directions now in voiceover are, and you see them, believable, conversational, no announcer, authentic, that kind of stuff. How's that going? How do you deal with that, where it's every morning you're on the radio and then you switch and go voiceover?
I think it was a bit of a challenge right out of the gate, especially because you just think, mic, headphones, whatever it may be. I don't typically use headphones. I think that helps when I do voice work. Some people think that's nuts. I think it helps me be more conversational. But I also feel like I kind of got in the radio when it was more personality driven, as far as like being more real and genuine and living your real life on the air. To where, maybe in the golden years of the 70s, 80s, and it was a persona, I got to do this or be this guy. So I think that helped as I kind of got in when things were shifting. because we have conversations in the morning and that are real and genuine and aren't, fabricated. Where, not to say that necessarily was always happening, but there is a big difference between the announcer voice and that sort of thing. So I do think it was very difficult, even though I felt like, hey, I have just conversations every day, but you're still hearing yourself and you're conscious of how you sound and you're not vulnerable. I think really placing yourself into who you are in whether it's a commercial read or brand anthem, feeling the words and expressing those words that you're using. I mean, this, but it all started with Bill DeWeese's Blueprint, and knowing that would have been a challenge right out of the gate, and not knowing how much of a challenge it would be to kind of get past that was interesting. But through coaching and training, I still fall into that. That's kind of my, okay, there's no direction. Here's my, regular read. But I think a lot of it's that, but placing yourself in the right mindset of, okay, who am I talking to? Who am I in this read? Am I selling something? Am I bringing this type of emotion? And just getting in that headspace has been big for me over the last couple years. I joined the Blueprint 2 years ago, and that's when I really started taking voiceover seriously and kind of having it as a side hustle. I think I let you guys know that technically I've been in voiceover for a while, because I've had one client for at least 15 years. So technically I can say I am a 15-year veteran. But when it really comes down, but when it really comes down to it, because it is a turnoff for a lot of people to say, oh, this guy's still in radio.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. That was one of my questions, was how did you get that job? Like, did they find you when you did your play-by-play? What was the kind of genre that like, were they wanting you to be a certain announcer? What was the kind of job was it?
Fortunately for me, in 2003, right after I graduated from college, I came home that summer. I worked not as a play-by-play announcer, but an on-field announcer. I helped a guy at church lay carpets, and I ended up getting a part-time job in radio where I work now. The program director at the time said, hey, I don't like anybody to get by in the talent pool, so come on in. So he actually gave me a shot, which he put me in a room. He said, you have 10 minutes to come up with a 30-second weather report or something. And I had gotten into radio in college. We had a campus station where I did play-by-play, but also had like a shift. So I kind of knew what to do, and was hired part-time. Took a job that did not last long back in the Kansas City area. And the day that job came to an end, where they realized it wasn't going to work, that was the day I was supposed to give my interest level back where I live now and work now. So obviously I got really interested all of a sudden, from, losing your job at 10 a.m. to making a call at 10:30. Very interested. Yes.
Yes. How interested you got all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And how is it going? I mean, we're trying to be a little transparent and off the cuff here.
Sure.
How is the voiceover business going? What's going on? Can you give us a little bit of an update?
Sure. It's gone really well. So again, I've been a voiceover talent for 15 years, making that very clear with that one client. Mm-hmm. But it was actually Bill DeWeese reaching out via LinkedIn, or his people reaching out with a couple of messages that really got me thinking. And I was in a weird, not a weird place, but a reflective place, because seeing what has happened in the radio industry over the years, and seeing a lot more talented people than me leaving, whether on their own or not, and knowing that it's a changing medium, just realizing, what happens if something were to happen? And I said, that would take my identity. I don't think it's a healthy place to have what you do be who you are. So I just really got thinking, and I talked to my wife about it, and I said, hey, this was actually pre-pandemic. It was kind of as it was happening, but we didn't really think it was going to be more than a couple weeks. Mm-hmm. So technically I signed on in April. So, but the conversations had started in January of 2020. So that's kind of how I got involved. And then I went all in, probably too fast through the Blueprint, because I was jumping in, and I was loving every second of it. And I just wanted to soak up as much as I could. And then I started actually making profit I'd say in the fall of 2020, with a do-it-yourself demo that your previous guest, Mike Halfgoat, helped me with.
Nice.
I had kind of
Nice.
made I had kind of made some of my own that were okay. My biggest problem was just being different in each read and
Sure.
and trying to fully understand that this needs to be a different sound. So and then I ended up working with Bill DeWeese on the pro demo and got that back late December and in 2020, and then things really started clicking in 2021. So I had a really great first full year. And then this year I've kind of prioritized a little more, trying to set some boundaries. Family's important. And I felt like I was down here way too much, working on my craft, which was good, but also struggling to find that life balance. So I've taken the foot off the gas a little bit. Another reason that I wanted to reach out about VOMP, as I like to call it, I know a lot of people like to call it, voiceover marketing pro, to be able to take some of that time that I should be doing direct marketing, and instead having someone who knows what they're doing do it.
Yeah. And I did that this last year. 2 years ago, I made $330,000. This last year, I made 318. And the reason is I wanted to help Hudson with his, I wanted to help him with his business. I wanted to help VOMP. And so sometimes you have to make that choice, and it doesn't matter whether you're making $50,000 or $400,000. You have to have that balance. If you were doing great, I mean, if it sounds like you kind of were, so maybe I've answering my own question, but if you started to really make good money, would you transition out of radio, or is that just like, no, I like radio. I've always done radio. I want to stay in radio. I think I can do both of them as long as I have the balance. Would you continue to be in radio, or how are you thinking about that?
I still love being able to do the type of work that I'm doing in radio. Obviously, you probably remember some of the behind the scenes stuff that's not so fun, but being on the air is still fun. Mm-hmm. I still love working with Whiskey, doing a show together. It's really enjoyable. So it's almost like I wanted to make sure I set a really good foundation in voiceover. And if that were to be the case, that I could make it and still take care of my family. But I still love what I do there, and I love what I do here. So who knows what the future holds? It's not up to me to hold it. I'm controlling what I can control, and just really being prepared for anything. And I think we hadn't thought a lot. I mean, I think you said you worked in Christian radio for a long time, Todd. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And even commercial radio, it's not like in the market we're in, it's not like we're getting rich here. So for many years I sacrificed future, whether it was retirement, I didn't even think about that stuff. And now being able to put most of my voiceover stuff into our future as a family, basically catching up on what a lot of people wisely, Hudson, listen up, do in their 20s. Start that early, start putting money away, start really thinking about future. It's hard to get out of what do I need right now. So that was kind of what my wife and I kind of have decided with this, is try to live on what we've lived on. And we're both pretty frugal people, which is helpful. So just trying to worry about the future and plan for the future is kind of important, and making sure that we have what we need and a few things we want.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. Very good advice. Now you've been with VO Marketing Pro for how long? How long have you been?
I reached out to you, I think, before you were ready for people. I'm trying to remember back, and you kindly wrote, "We're not quite ready." I think it might have even been when we first made contact. I believe it might have been 2020. I think I was trying to figure out what you guys did, and what it would take and that sort of thing. And then I think in 2021 we reconnected, and went from there. And then I switched kind of into a different realm of what you do, because you offer a few different services and to be a part of your roster. And I'm extremely happy. In fact, today I got the third job from someone I met on Voice Over Marketing Pro. So I don't know how you set that up, guys, but that was a good time.
Continuing work, right? I mean, this person's used you. This is the third time they're using you.
This is the third project. And this is, it's still 2 clients, but they were happy he was happy, and they were happy. So you love to make people happy and have them come back. It's one of those things where it's like, today was one of those days where you wake up and after a couple hours in your inbox, there's a few jobs and a few other opportunities. That's all you can ask for. It's not, you got to go chasing today. It's okay. I've got a few things that have to be done that are paid or potentially, looking good. Maybe it's a planned audition or an audition where it's down to a few people. So you have a real good shot. And today is one of those days. So that's kind of the goal, to wake up with work in your inbox and opportunities each day, and that you don't have to work too hard to go looking for opportunities. And I think that's why it's important to have a company like yours that you guys have formed, to be able to, I talked about setting that foundation in 2021. And I feel like with Voice Over Marketing Pro, that's what it's doing. We're getting a great contact list with warm replies. Trying to keep in touch with them is one of my biggest weaknesses. I've got to get better at following up. I know that's part of what you do as well, which is appreciated. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah. I knew Bill for quite a few years, a lot longer than I knew you, but we were starting VO Marketing Pro, off to the side, and you actually got us together. Did you know that? Because you mentioned in the Bill DeWeese group, what is VOMP? You said,
that's right.
It was a great, quote, naive question that just said, what's this VOMP people are talking about? And Bill then contacted me, and he wanted to know more about it. And so we continued, he promoted it. And then he said, hey, you're doing a good job. Why don't you take over my direct email marketing too? So he's our client now. But that's, we should get some sort of a Bill DeWeese finder's fee for Randy. You got to start it together.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I owe a lot to Bill and his team, because I would just be like, oh, that'd probably be cool if I tried it sometime, but I would have no idea where to begin. And even if someone's watching this that's not a part of the blueprint, which I'm sure there are, so many great resources from Bill, even now daily on YouTube. But just taking his blueprint and following it has been just a great, it's a legitimate blueprint to getting a business started. And I'm certainly thankful to have stumbled across and obviously connected with you, and glad to connect you two in that way.
Yeah.
Even though you were connected before.
No, but we really do appreciate it. It kind of opened doors, and I'm glad you made that plug for the blueprint, because Bill is a sponsor of our podcast. He's our podcast voice. And we have links down below of our podcast for Bill and all of his training and stuff, just because we appreciate what he does too. So I'm glad you gave that little plug. That was, he didn't initiate that. We didn't initiate it. It was just natural. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And it's well beyond Bill. Obviously, Mallory taking care of a lot of his business side and does a session every couple of weeks. Mike Halfcoat, who you just had on, is an incredible coach that, obviously you get that. If you're able to get one-on-one with him, it was great. I've had a few other coaches as well. And I think, you absorb as much as you can from these great minds. And Alex has done a great job setting up my sound. And obviously, Fred kind of running some things as well and having that first conversation. It's interesting. So Bill, Fred's a nice guy too, but it's almost like Fred's there to tell you like it is. It's like Bill's, hey, everything. But Fred will tell you like it is. He's like, all right, do you think you have what this takes? And I appreciated that. I appreciate the fact that they have someone like Fred to, hey, this is how it goes. This is, you could do this.
Yeah.
Or you can't, it is what it is. So it was great. I think his whole team is phenomenal. And again, I owe pretty much my entire voiceover career to that man and his team.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Hudson, I don't have a lot more questions for Randy. Maybe you've got a few there.
Yeah. I wanted to ask him a little bit about platforms and stuff like that, because I sent you that little template or whatever, and you didn't say that you use either Upwork, Fiverr. You didn't put those on there, which was fine. Maybe it wasn't the great question, but do you not use Upwork, Fiverr? Do you not use those types of sites?
I am on, because I think the blueprint is one of the things with Fiverr. I don't use it a ton. I use Voice 123, Bidalgo, and Voice over Planet. So I use a lot of the play to plays. You can't obviously build everything on pay to plays. I've done well, I think, on there. But again, a lot of it is I love auditioning. I feel like that's where I made great improvement as well. This is just, basically my story. I think I grew just looking at direction from people, and sometimes they'll give you a link of what they're looking for. In addition to all the coaching and that sort of thing, just getting the experience was good for me. It's not great for everybody, I guess, but it worked for me. I got enough jobs to make it well worth the fee, but it can be discouraging to look at how many times you auditioned for something on one of those and how many you won. But I'm extremely happy. It's been about 50% of my business, and most of my contacts came from jobs on those.
Okay.
So that could turn into more direct, and other LinkedIn's been a great source for me as well, just to connect with people. But yeah, I don't use those others very often, but I am on there.
Okay.
So
I was just interested because we had talked to Mike, and I don't know if Mike Hathco, on the last podcast, and he said he doesn't use them at all, which
never
to each his own. Like
just kidding.
Yeah, but it just was interesting to hear his take on it. And I understand, even though I've only been in voiceover for a year, I understand the struggle with, I don't understand the struggle with voices and like Voices 1, 2, 3, because I'm not on there. So like the big cattle call auditions and stuff like that, I haven't really been a part of, but there are a lot of voices on Fiverr, and seems to be a fair amount on Upwork too, which I'm on. So I understand his problem with them. So
yeah, absolutely. I think, like I was saying, it can be really discouraging if you're auditioning for 30 or 40 or 50, and it gets to, I can't remember which one. I had some pretty good success relatively early on, and enough to continue to. It's kind of like, I don't play golf, but whenever I did, 17 of the holes, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. And I have that one good hole. I have one good hole, and I'm like, you know what? I could do this.
Yeah. Exactly.
So once in a while, you'll get it in the cup at, under par, and be able to kind of go, okay, I can do this. And I've enjoyed it. And again, I've been just reading real scripts, some well written, some not, but just getting that real life experience has been good for me.
Yeah, the practice for some people. I mean, originally that's what Bill would say. ACX, there was no Fiverr, ACX, direct marketing, and voices.com, because you could at least practice. It was worth your time. That's the old days. They don't so much talk about that, but that's kind of what we did back about 10, 12 years ago.
Well, I remember a lot of what Bill said was basically, find a way to be heard. And that was my way of marketing, really. And a lot of people might say that's not a smart way, because you invest time, and time you could be doing it another way, like sending out emails, these sorts of things. But, if you want to be heard, that was my way of trying to get heard and seeing what's out there. And, I haven't considered not doing them. It's going well enough where I'm not going, well, this is a complete waste. Backstage, I have not had, I don't quite understand that. I never really understood Upwork. So, and there's a couple others that, there's a ton out there that you'll see, freelance sites and that sort of thing. But those are the two big ones, Voice 123 and Voices, that I've gone after and had some success. So
good for you.
Well, do you have anything else, Dad? I don't think I have a whole lot. Maybe Randy, you have some questions for us. I don't know.
We've only got about 3 minutes here. So
we need to get a sponsor so you can get that full Zoom time.
That's what we need to get, right? You nailed it. You nailed it.
I think, again, not to just keep plugging Bill, but again, I got to thank him and his team and your team. But I also think it's important to get a lot of other influences, but know who to trust. And I think you figure that out. Sometimes, I've spent money on equipment and this sort of thing that maybe I probably shouldn't have. I've learned some things the hard way, but sometimes that can be the best way. Sometimes that's the only way, sadly. Mm-hmm. But, you just want to get to that point where you're able to look back and go, well, it's kind of foolish, but I'm here now. And, I learned from it. And I think there's obvious mistakes you can make in voiceover, and we probably all made them. But just having that, I'm going to make this work no matter what attitude is what I've gone with. And I've had some great influences through Bill and his team and some other coaches, Mark Ryder, Tracy Lindley, a little bit on LinkedIn, Monine, a couple other coaches out there that were great for me. And, they may be great for you. They may not be, but there's some really good voices and influences out there. I think it's important just to take as much as you can from all of those people. There's a lot of people that do this, that know what they're doing. And Todd being one of them, and Hudson, an up and comer as well. So,
I don't give a lot of, I try not to give a lot of advice because, like I said, I'm only a year in, and my dad, I try to soak up as much as I can from my dad because he's listened to Bill and stuff like that. So like you said, Bill has been very,
and your dad has a bit of a good track record right now too. That's been going on. So
exactly.
He's doing all right for himself. So he's a good one to listen to for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Very kind of you. Very kind. Well, we so appreciate you taking time. You've got your radio and you got your voiceover, you got your family. We know you do stuff for charity through the
your
radio
cats.
And other stuff. Yep. Yeah.
Cats dying on my yard.
Yeah.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. Exactly.
I don't even have cats, but 3 have died on my yard in the last 4 years. It's weird.
Sometime we'll get together and trade cat stories. I never really owned a cat, but I lived on a farm and I've got lots of cat stories, and they're sad and funny at the same time. So.
I know those stories. Well, thanks so much, guys. It was a great opportunity to chat with you, and wish you the best. And thanks for all you do for all of us on VoiceOver Marketing Pro.
You too, Randy. Take care.
Stay in touch.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.